So welcome back to my take on the First World War. And in the last video, we had the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand, and now we have the July crisis of 1914, ultimately the response to that assassination that will lead to the First World War. And so June 28th, 1914, Archduke Franz Ferdinand, the heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, and his wife Sophie go down to Sarajevo, Bosnia, the newest province of Austria-Hungary, for various reasons, but ultimately, again, kind of showing the imperial face in this new province. And well, Serbian nationalists have wanted this province too, because in Bosnia there's a large Serbian population. And so Serbians have a Serbian nation state, they have the Kingdom of Serbia, but again, there are these Serbians who are not part of the Serbian nation state. And so Serbia has wanted Bosnia, which is now occupied and controlled by Austria-Hungary. And so a group of Serbian nationalists, essentially a terrorist organization, led by people like this man here, Dmitrijevic, have organized this assassination, and they've recruited some young Bosnians, Bosnian Serbs, like Gavrilo Princip, to try to assassinate Franz Ferdinand. So there's several assassins involved in the assassination, but Princip is the one who happens to be at the right place at the right time when Franz Ferdinand's car here turns the corner, and there is Princip, who fires his two shots and kills Franz Ferdinand and Sophie. And so Princip and the others are arrested. And so what I really want to stress here is that as we go forward, the Serbian government is not behind the assassination. There are members of the Serbian government who are part of a secret organization that is behind the assassination. But as we go forward, just make sure to keep that in mind. The assassination is not directly Serbia's fault. And so there's going to be a trial, there's going to be investigation before that. And so in the immediate days after the assassination, again, everyone's kind of calling for justice. Newspapers throughout Europe are being very sympathetic to Austria-Hungary and Franz Ferdinand. But the question right now is, again, who knew what when? And so think of what's going to happen now as sort of dominoes falling. This is going to start as, hopefully, people hope, a local Balkan conflict between Austria and Serbia. Hopefully the Serbians will give in Austrian demands, what Austria kind of, some people hope for. What's going to happen ultimately is this Balkan crisis is going to spin into a world war as people make decisions. And so the July crisis is really intricate, really complex. Things are happening really quickly by the end of July. And well, think of it almost like if you're sliding down the slide, you don't want to slide down the slide, so you're throwing your hands everywhere, you're trying to stop yourself. And that's when you kind of read about the July crisis, the feeling I get at least, is, basically no one really wants to go to war. There are people who do. There are some German military figures who say, let's do it, let's bring about the final world war we've been planning for. But again, a lot of people don't want to go to war, but at the same time, people don't want to be the loser in that war. And well, if we don't want to be the loser in the potential upcoming war, we need to start preparing now. So governments will be trying to make peace moves at the same time they're making war moves. And so, again, with that, this domino effect will occur. And so we've had our assassinations. Let's turn to the response of Austria-Hungary. And so over in Vienna, the real capital of the empire, we have our Emperor of Austria, King of Hungary, Franz Joseph. He basically tells his ministers, okay, you guys figure out how we should respond. And well, right now in Austria, there's a lot of people calling for sort of Serbian blood. People are blaming the Serbian people, the Serbian kingdom for this. And so notice the cartoon there. The arm there, it's German for Österreich-Ungarn, Austria-Hungary. And it says there in German, Serbien muss sterben, Serbia must die. And so there's the Austrian hands. We need to crush Serbia now. And then notice the Serbians are depicted as these little, this kind of demon monkey creature with his bomb and his dagger. So we got to get rid of this vermin, basically. And there have been people who have been saying this for a while. Over on the left, we have Army Chief of Staff Konrad von Hötzendorf. Hötzendorf has been calling for war against Serbia for a long time, and people have been like, you're crazy. And now he's like, see? Again, we can't trust, he says, these Serbians. Again, these Serbians will always be a problem for Austria-Hungary, so let's just smash Serbia now. Let's use the assassination. Let's go in, defeat the Serbians, and be done with them. Again, notice the size of the armies I put there. Again, Austria-Hungary has 3 million, Serbia has 500,000. For a lot of people on the surface, this could be a really quick way to punish Serbians for what the Austrians see as a Serbian act. Now, notice the rest of the ministers there. I put sort of pro-war to pro-peace. A major pro-peace figure is the Hungarian Prime Minister, István, or Stephen Tiza. Tiza's like, hey guys, I know we kind of want to rush the war, but or we want to act aggressively, but if we act aggressively to Serbia, we could basically start a general European war. We could start a world war. Like, he's kind of prophetic in a little way. But again, he's someone who needs to agree to a response, and well, he's going to be sort of the major voice for peace. Because if it had not been for the assassination of Franz Ferdinand would be there. And Franz Ferdinand would actually be the biggest voice for peace. Because Franz Ferdinand understood the monarchy isn't that strong. The army's fallen behind. It actually isn't that great. And well, if Austria-Hungary gets into a war, it may not be able to win, and the Austro-Hungarian state could collapse with all those other nationalities wanting independence or autonomy. And so Franz Ferdinand was very cautious about getting Austria-Hungary into a war, and well, now our big advocate for peace is no longer at the table. And so for the Austro-Hungarian government, it's kind of sticky at the moment because, well, we have the Serbian government, we have the Serbian king and the prime minister. And again, we Austrians, we've been at odds for Serbia for a long time. Most notably, I brought up in previous videos, the Bosnian crisis in 1908. Serbia didn't like Austria taking Bosnia. Again, the Serbians were hoping they can create a larger Serbian nation state. Then we had the Balkan Wars and Austria promoting the creation of Albania to stop Serbia from having access to the sea. And well, for the Austro-Hungarian government, we don't know if members of the Serbian government were behind this assassination, but we feel like they must have been. There has to have been somebody in the Serbian government or multiple people who knew about this. And well, did the Prime Minister of Serbia, Nikola Pasic here, did he know about it? And that's been a big question. And so we know now that the chief of Serbia's military intelligence was the guy in charge of the Black Hand. But again, Austria-Hungary just doesn't know for sure, but they basically want to now pin the responsibility for this ultimately on the Serbian government. And well, if we Austro-Hungarians, they say in Vienna, these government ministers, if we're going to pick on Serbia, we're going to make sure we have our main ally at our back, because we don't really want to, for the Austro-Hungarians, we don't want to bring about a big conflict unless we know we have which country at our back. And so Austria, the government there, the ministers get together and say, we need to figure out where Germany stands with us. And so we have Germany and our Kaiser at the moment, Wilhelm II, who's been around since 1888. And well, Kaiser Wilhelm II was very sympathetic to the Austrian cause. He was pretty friendly with Franz Ferdinand. And so when he heard of Franz Ferdinand's assassination, Wilhelm said that the Serbians must be disposed of, and soon. And so Wilhelm is very much in favor of the Austrians dealing with the Serbians. The chief of the German General Staff, Helmut von Moltke, basically is like, look, let's just, you guys got to do it now. Defeat Serbia. Just end the Serbian pest once and for all. And so, if we're going to mess with Serbia, the problem is what's going to happen with Russia. And well, Russia, what are they going to do? What are they capable of? And well, Russia has been humiliated in the past few years. They were humiliated in 1905 with the Russo-Japanese War and losing to the Japanese. They were humiliated in 1908, in which Austria-Hungary basically got away with annexing Bosnia. And so Russia's had to back down twice. They're not really going to want to back down again. We've been humiliated enough in the diplomatic arena. Russia understands, though, they're not really ready for a big war. They've been recovering, they've been rebuilding, they've been expanding industry. And, well, the Germans, though, are very much afraid of Russia. So back to this chart here I've shown before in the last quarter, or weeks ago. We have here a chart showing the growth of Russian railway expansion. And so Russia has been, in the past several years, furiously industrializing, building railroads. And so for the Germans, Russia's a big threat ultimately, because Russia could take millions of soldiers, eventually put them on trains, and flood Germany, ideally, or theoretically, with soldiers. And so the German military's kind of been, and members of the German military have actually been hoping for a war with Russia soon, because if we fight Russia now, there's a better chance we fight and beat Russia today than, let's say, in a few years when they could be really formidable opponent. So again, there's a lot going on here, and well, these Austro-Hungarian ministers send a representative to the Kaiser, and well, the German Kaiser will have lunch with the, and I'll just show you his face here, with the Austro-Hungarian ambassador to Germany. And well, after lunch, that ambassador writes back to his government in Vienna this: "After lunch, when I again called attention to the seriousness of the situation, the Kaiser authorized me to inform our gracious Majesty, Franz Josef, that we, Austria-Hungary, might in this case, as in all others, rely upon Germany's full support. Russia's attitude will no doubt be hostile, but for this he had been prepared for years. And should a war between Austria-Hungary and Russia be unavoidable, Germany, our old faithful ally, would stand at our side." And so this becomes known as, later on, after the war, this becomes known as the blank check. So if I were to write you a check, I would, let's say, put my name on it, I'd sign it, but I wouldn't put how much money I was going to give you. So I'm giving you a blank check. So you can put $1, you can put $1 million, assuming I have $1 million. And so ultimately what this means metaphorically is that Germany's giving Austria its full support. And so again, June 28th was the assassination. July 5th here, Kaiser Wilhelm is telling the Austro-Hungarian government through their ambassador, don't worry, we got your back 100%. You know, if this basically comes to a world war, we're going to be at your side. And so Wilhelm II gives Austria a blank check, but he adds this: "It was also Wilhelm II's opinion," writes the ambassador, "that an Austro-Hungarian war against Serbia must not be delayed. Russia at the present time was in no way prepared for war, and would think twice before it appealed to arms. If we, Austria-Hungary, really recognize the necessity of warlike action against Serbia, Wilhelm II would regret if we did not make use of the present moment, which is all in our favor." And so Wilhelm II is saying, yeah, we got your back, but you need to move quickly. You need to move now. Don't delay. Smash those pesky Serbians, and let's try to do that before, you guys should do that before Russia really makes a big stink of that. And so now the ministers of the Austro-Hungarian government feel a little more reassured. Okay, Germany's going to have our back. And so ultimately, Austria-Hungary would not have done really anything too aggressively if Germany didn't give the quote-unquote blank check. I'll put a little asterisk there because we're going to come back to this after the war. And so there's our Austro-Hungarian governmental leaders, and now they have to figure out what to do. And well, the Germans say you should act quickly, but what's going to happen ultimately is that Austria-Hungary is going to be slow to act. And that's really kind of a stress here, is that Wilhelm II is given their full support, but Austria-Hungary, for various reasons, is going to drag its feet. And so again, the ministers, the Hungarian prime minister, the chief of staff of the army, and all these guys, they're debating still. Again, what do we do? How do we proceed? And well, amidst all this, they hear that the investigations into the assassination are over. And the assassination investigators come back and say, yeah, we can't find any evidence that Serbian governmental ministers or Serbian governmental figures were behind the assassination. And so Austria-Hungary's like, shoot, like we were hoping for some evidence there as a reason to act aggressively against Serbia. And then, despite the chief of staff wanting war with Serbia, the chief of staff here also says, wait a second, maybe we shouldn't pull all of those peasant soldiers into service. A lot of peasant farmers would then be called up to serve in the army if we declared war. Let's wait till after like July 25th because, well, those peasant farmers are going to need to bring in the harvest. We don't want to call these soldiers in to fight until we've basically harvested all the harvested food for the season. And so the chief of staff is now going to say we need to wait. Ultimately, too, the French president, Raymond Poincaré, was paying a visit in late July to the Tsar of Russia in St. Petersburg. And so the Austro-Hungarian government literally waited until the French president left St. Petersburg on a ship before Austria-Hungary announced sort of their action, because what they were hoping was that if the president had sailed away, he couldn't coordinate with the French government, he wouldn't be able to coordinate well with the Russian government, and so Austria-Hungary is waiting for the French president to leave Russia. And well, these ministers debate, what do we do, what do we do, how do we do it, and ultimately, they're going to submit an ultimatum to Serbia on July 23rd. And so they've been spending several days here, putting together their list of demands. And that's what an ultimatum is, a list of demands. And so July 23rd, this is now sent to the Serbian government in Belgrade, the Serbian capital. And well, they have 48 hours to respond, or else we Austria-Hungary are going to invade. And so I just kind of listed a few things here. So, what are the Serbian government, what are they supposed to do? And well, what Austria-Hungary wants is for the Serbian government to crack down on anti-Austro-Hungarian newspapers. Again, stop your newspapers from making, rallying people up and making people angry at Austria. Get rid of, anti-Austrian Serbian nationalist organizations. Stop spreading hatred of Austria in school. Basically, Serbian government, you need to do more to prevent sort of the hatred that inspired Gavrilo Princip. You also need to fire military and political officials that we want to have fired. But lastly, and this was really the big sticking point here, the number 6. What do we Austro-Hungarians want? We want to put on trial all who were involved in the assassination of Franz Ferdinand and allow Austro-Hungarian officials to take part in the investigations in Serbia. So think about what that means. What the Austrian government here is demanding is that Serbia allow Austro-Hungarian agents, investigators, into Serbia to investigate. And so on one level, the Serbian government's like, whoa, like that's a pretty bold demand. Again, we're Serbia, we're an independent sovereign country, and you want to send your officials in to investigate like us, investigate our people? Like, no, that's not how this works. Again, we're an independent country, so this demand is a frontal assault against respect and dignity for Serbia's integrity, territorial integrity. But also, if you're a Serbian governmental official or you're a minister, politician, well, hold on a second. If we let Austro-Hungarian officials into Serbia to investigate, what if they find that members of the government were behind this assassination? That would not be good. And so Serbia, in the end, takes these and okay, what do we do here? And well, they're going to respond, and they're going to agree. They're going to agree to the ultimatum. For the most part, except for that one point, that point 6 basically. And so Serbia is going to agree to what Austria wants, but not everything. And so here's what they say about that point 6. As regards participation in this investigation of the Austro-Hungarian agents or authorities appointed for this purpose by the Imperial Royal Government of Austria-Hungary, the Royal Government of Serbia cannot accept such an arrangement, as it would be a violation of the Constitution of Serbia and of the law of criminal procedure. But they add this: if the Imperial Royal Government of Austria-Hungary are not satisfied with this reply, the Serbian government is ready, as always, to accept a peaceful understanding, either by referring this question to the decision of the International Tribunal of The Hague or to the Great Powers. And so, look, we can't accept this, but we're willing to talk. And when Wilhelm II gets his copy of the Serbian response, it was discovered after the war that he wrote this on the side: a great moral victory for Vienna, but with it every reason for war is removed. And so there's Wilhelm II clearly on July 28th saying, hey, the crisis is over, there's no reason for war. But again, the whole purpose ultimately of this ultimatum on the part of the Austro-Hungarians was to stoke a war with and create a war with Serbia. And so, on July 28th, hey, Serbian government didn't agree to everything. Therefore, July 28th, now Austria-Hungary declares war on Serbia. And so newspapers throughout the empire publish in German there the Kriegserklärung, the war declaration. So July 28th, again, it's been an entire month since the assassination of Franz Ferdinand on June 28th. And so much for acting quickly. Again, June 28th, 29th, 30th, again, a lot of Europeans are sympathetic to Austria-Hungary in what happened. And now a month later, again, wait, what happened? Oh, yeah, what happened to that guy in Sarajevo? But so with that, again, the Austrians have delayed, they've taken their time, and now July 28th, they declare war in Serbia, and now the crisis is becoming a war. And well, the next morning at 1 a.m. on July 29th, the first shots of the First World War are fired when the Austro-Hungarian gunboat here fires from the river, the Danube River, onto the Serbian capital of Belgrade, which again is right across the border from Hungary. And so now our war has begun. And well, there's little Serbia, and of course, who's Serbia always going to turn to? Their big Slavic brother, Russia. And so Russia's response now, so our dominoes here are starting to fall. And now all eyes turn especially to Tsar Nicholas II. So Tsar Nicholas II has been reigning over Russia as an autocrat since 1894, very much sort of like Louis XVI back in the French Revolution. He meant well, but he wasn't really prepared to rule. His dad was like, I'll teach you when you're older how to rule over Russia, and well, then his dad died before he could teach him how to rule, before the point where Nicholas was being invited to meetings and things like that. So Nicholas II means well, but he's just not that great of a ruler. And well, he's very close to Wilhelm II. They're basically distant cousins, but Wilhelm II, they're wearing a Russian uniform, while Tsar Nicholas II wearing a German one. And so they have a personal relationship here. And well, all right, we're Russia, and well, what do? Well, we want to back up our Serbian brothers, our Slavic Orthodox brothers, against Austria, our rivals in the Balkans. And so Tsar tells the military, go ahead and get the troops ready. We're not going to declare war, but again, we're not backing down. We backed down in 1908 with the Bosnian crisis there. We're not backing down now. And so he tells the Minister of War, hey, I want you to partially mobilize the army. So again, get troops in uniforms with their weapons and start mobilizing them, organizing them along the border with Austria-Hungary. And well, the Minister of War is like, hey, that sounds great, but we don't really have a plan for that, because we always figure that if we're going to fight Austria, we're also going to fight Germany. And so we have a plan to mobilize troops along the whole border here of Western Russia. And, we probably, if this war is going to come, we want to be ready, so we might as well fully mobilize anyway. And so Nicholas II makes a fateful decision. On July 31st, he orders now full mobilization of the Russian armed forces. They're not declaring war, but this is the step right before a declaration of war. And so now Russian troops are getting on their trains, wherever they can get on trains. They're getting their weapons, if they can get some weapons. Again, the Russian army has its own supply problems. And now Russian troops are mobilizing and heading toward the western border. And well, if you're the government in Berlin, and then all of a sudden you hear reports of Russian troops making their way to the border, oh yeah, we now turn to the next domino, Germany. And so Germany's response, hey, Russia, Kaiser Wilhelm II, hey, cousin Nicholas, hey, Nicky, could you guys, stop this mobilization? Because we see this as a threat, right? And well, Russia continues to mobilize. And now Germany has to implement its plan. And so August 1st, Kaiser Wilhelm II orders the army and navy to mobilize, because Germany has been, and the German military in particular, has been planning for this event for a long time. The next big war. What if we Germans have to fight a war on two fronts? And now that Russia is mobilizing, Germany feels like we have to implement our plan, the Schlieffen Plan. And so by 1905, we have, of all the military plans pre-World War I, the Schlieffen Plan, the most famous. 1905, we had the plan named after the previous German General Staff Commander, Count Alfred von Schlieffen. By World War I, he's died, but he's the one who's basically finalized the major portion of the plan here. And so, with the Schlieffen Plan, notice I put at the bottom the sizes of the armies. And so Russia has 6 million soldiers, France has 4 million. That's 10 million versus the 4.5 million of Germany, plus, whatever Austria-Hungary can basically have. And so Germany's like, okay, the question here is, how do we defeat and win against two opponents, France and Russia, basically? And so what they planned for was, okay, the German military commander said, we envision, because Russia has a not-so-advanced railroad system, we're going to have probably 6 weeks until the Russian army fully mobilizes. So once the Russian army starts to mobilize, which, remember, at the moment they have, we Germans have 6 weeks if we're going to win this war. And so what's the plan? All right, step 1, defeat France by invading through Belgium. Step 1 of the Schlieffen Plan, to defeat France by invading through Belgium. And so according to the Schlieffen Plan, most of Germany's troops would be sent west. And well, Belgium is supposed to be a neutral country, but the Germans are going to take a big gamble and say, you know what, we know the French are going to have all their troops here along the border of Alsace-Lorraine. We know the French are going to want to take Alsace-Lorraine back and invade it, so let's basically outflank them. And so we'll launch a surprise invasion. We'll just simply smash right through Belgium. Come on, little old Belgium there. And well, while German troops surround the French down here, we're going to also send German troops through northern France, have a wide right hook, and we'll take Paris. And so ultimately, first part of the plan, invade Belgium, go through Belgium, and defeat France quickly. And we need to defeat France quickly. Because if we can do that in 6 weeks, part 2 of the plan, defeat Russia. And so knock out France first by going through Belgium, and then once France is defeated, take all of Germany's troops and shift them over to the east. And by the time those 6 weeks are over, the Russian military is going to be fully mobilized and ready to go. Therefore, after 6 weeks, the German army will be there in full force, having already defeated France. And so this is the plan. This is Germany's one plan they've invested in and thought about. They've practiced it. They've run all these scenarios. This is their one plan, as they see it, to win a two-front war. And so once Russia started mobilizing, Germany got really scared because now the time, and I'm going to keep referring back to the timer, because now the clock is ticking. We got 6 weeks to knock out France if we're going to turn around and defeat Russia. And so, hey, Russia, you guys aren't going to stop mobilizing? Well, guess what? August 1st, when the Kaiser orders the mobilization of the army and the navy, he now also declares war on Russia. And so now Germany's declared war on Russia because now Germany now has to institute its Schlieffen Plan. And so, August 3rd, the German government has said, hey, France, are you guys going to stay neutral and stay out of this? France says no. And so now Germany declares war on France. And so, again, we're just kind of putting all the people... Again, notice this is August 1st, August 3rd. The next day, again, we got to get the Schlieffen Plan rolling. We got 6 weeks to knock out France and get back to deal with Russia. And so August 4th, German troops begin marching into Belgium and enacting the first phase of the Schlieffen Plan. And well, which country back in the 1830s supported Belgian neutrality? Aha. And so all the dominoes now are falling, and now Great Britain declares war on Germany. So the dominoes fall, and now Great Britain declares war on Germany. And so the official reason, and again, I stress the official reason here, the official reason ultimately Britain will enter World War I is to defend Belgian neutrality, which seems kind of ridiculous. Why is Britain putting so much of this into Belgium? Well, I mean, again, yeah, they supported Belgian neutrality back in the 1830s, and so again, it's part of sort of British honor to live up to our ideals of Belgium should be neutral and independent, basically, and free from invasion. The German chancellor basically called that 1839 treaty a scrap of paper. But notice it says at the bottom is British propaganda poster. The Germans have broken their pledged word and devastated Belgium. Help to keep your country's honor bright by restoring Belgium to her liberty. Enlist today. So again, we need to help defend our Belgian brothers there. But there's also a deeper thing here, which is, think about it from the British perspective. If we sit out of this war, what's going to happen if either side wins? If we British sit outside this war, and the Germans were actually hoping the British would just stay out of this, they were trying to get the British to stay out of this. If we British stay out of this war, what's going to happen if Russia and France win? They're not going to be happy with us, the British, for not standing at their side. What if Germany and Austria win? Well, again, we British will not have a place at the table. And so ultimately, there's sort of deeper thing here of if we want to remain a world power, we got to get involved. But again, the official reason here is because the Germans violated Belgian neutrality. And so now all 5 of our major powers have entered the war. And well, notice a little cartoon here. I'll start with the one on the right. Again, back to the domino effect. The little Serbian. If you touch me, I'll Austro-Hungarian. If you make a move, I'll the Russian. If you hit that little feller, I'll the German. If you strike my friend, I'll the Frenchman. If you hit him, and then the Brit. Ho there, a few chaps. And so notice it's sort of like, this all these alliances, all these international relations now start falling like dominoes. And now this German cartoon, little Serbia has stunk up the whole world. And there's little Serbia farting at the lunch table with England, France, and Russia looking on, and the Austrians and Germans holding their nose. And there's Japan at the end. And so now, with that, our July crisis, it's taken a month. There's been a lot of big decisions. There's people talking peace and war and making moves towards peace and war. And with that now, our little Balkan conflict has evolved into a world war. And well, the British Foreign Secretary Edward Grey, after the declaration of war against Germany, supposedly said, "The lamps are going out all over Europe. We shall not see them lit again in our lifetime." And that's a quote thinking back, past World War I and past World War II. Seems kind of prophetic in the end. And well, the lamps are now going to go out all over Europe, and Europe as it's developed in the past several decades, with all the sort of technological progress and scientific progress and cultural progress. Now this Western civilization, now Europe will become shattered by this world war, and the lamps will go out. And so everybody now, all the major powers are involved in the war, but as we'll see in the next video, things don't go the way people expect them to. And that's been another production of Trosclair Film Studios.